Welcome to the Adventure Athlete podcast. I'm Ed Burnham. If you would want to stick around and listen to me dribble on about ultra running, 200 distance, how to fuel, how to not fuel, what mistakes, how to do this, how to do it, listen on. But if it's not for you, go to the next one.
What was your call to adventure?
Yeah, right, cool. So my twofold for me, because I think I had a call to adventure as a kid. So that'd be my initial love of the outdoors, mountains, that kind of vibe. And I guess it was being in the Boy Scouts as a kid. It gave me a real sense of freedom. First times hiking, getting out into the downs, all parts of Surrey, that kind of stuff. Seeing things that maybe I hadn't seen before, and that for me was a real eye opener as to You go from being in four walls, you're born in four walls, and all of a sudden you're thrown out into nature like you haven't seen before. And it was just, I guess, that sense of feeling small, and I've had that repeated several times through my life. Like being in the Alps is another one for me. I remember sort of like 13-year-old's first time being in the Alps, and thinking that was just the most incredible feeling in the world. And again, that whole feeling of being small and feeling small. And the mountains just taking over, and it didn't matter what I was doing or what the activity was for me, but that was just being in that environment. I guess you could say I lost my way slightly as an 18-year-old, and it was I've come from a background. I played rugby. I've done a lot of sport in my life. I did triathlon as quite a young kid as well, and so that kind of a sense of adventure for me and outdoor sports was just part of my life, I guess, for a long time, and always has been. But yeah, we'll talk about the sort of 18-year-old Ed onwards. There was a great deal of losing my way, should we say, and maybe not prioritising the things that were more important in my life. Those things shaped me, so I've got no regrets. But yeah, you could say I went down a slippery slope. Running bars was more interesting than lifting bars. So I fell out of love with the rugby side of things. I played for. I was playing at London Welsh as a kid. Who knows? The always the ifs and the whats and the could have beens. But yeah, once sort of going out, that kind of thing took over. Maybe the social side of rugby was better than the playing side. I found myself, my first job was working in a pub, working in bars. Loved that environment, loved the thrill of it, loved all the stuff all the good bits that go along with that stuff. So maybe lost my way, didn't have that sense of priority for fitness and sport the same way I used to do, and as I say, I've done you name it, I've probably had a crack at it and done it. But I guess when I turned 20, what was I, 20, maybe 23, I think I was. I thought, why am I not playing rugby still? What happened? What did I go wrong? So I decided to go back and play rugby with a good friend of mine, PJ, and he's crewed me in the wild horses and races and stuff like that. So he's a really good friend. But me and him decided, let's just go and join the rugby club back again. Started on the social side, and the next thing you know, playing pretty decent standard, getting picked for what was the academy side at that point. So we're playing academy rugby, first feeding to the first team, who were at the time National 1, so a decent level of rugby, all the rest of it, and had a new lease of life, if you like. Really loved it and enjoyed it. But okay, the downside was that maybe I didn't have the experience of other people because I'd missed a chunk. So I wasn't I say to a lot of people I was overlooked being picked for the first team, but the real truth of the matter is I didn't put the work in. I didn't have the guidance, maybe, or I didn't have the drive the same way that maybe some of the 18-year-olds had when they were coming into the squad, and then getting picked to play first team rugby and go on from there. So yeah, I maybe I didn't put the time and the effort in, but I definitely enjoyed it. I have to admit, that was the one thing I took away, is I definitely enjoyed rugby again. I love doing that. It's still a part of my life now as well. My son plays, he's under 10s, I'm the head coach for his team. I love that whole thing, that just being involved in any capacity. So for me, it's, yeah, I still get to do that, but in a different way now, and maybe I live through my son's eyes a little bit. But hey, he loves it, so as long as that keeps going, I'll ride the wave. But yeah, it's been good fun getting back into that and finding it another way. It was when my eldest was born. She's 14 now. I stopped playing. I just couldn't face. I've always had a physical job in landscaping, so getting beaten up at the weekends and then trying to work during the week was a real difficult thing to do. So packed it on the head for the second time, if you like, in my life. But then, yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. I'd put a lot of effort into it. I must have been 28, 29 by then. So I feel like I'd had a good go at it. I was doing the gym. I was doing a lot of what was required, what the first team had to do. So there was a lot of gym, a lot of lifting weights, lifting heavy, and that was a part of another huge part of your life that maybe it's not just running on a pitch, it's all the work off the pitch. So although I was doing some of that work, or a lot of that work, maybe I fell out of love with some of that as well a little bit. Like lifting heavy just wasn't for me anymore. I'd done it for so long, and then once I decided I wasn't going to play anymore, I think I finished playing for the Vets side just as in the last season, and those boys, at the time I was like under 30 and they were over 40 and still hitting like they were 20-year-olds. So they would just come smashing in, and they didn't care. They all had office jobs. They, having a black eye after a weekend was a badge of honour for those guys. So I was at that point I was quite happy to drop the rugby, and then having kids takes over. You're busy. There's a lot going on. I had a business, which then really leads up to the other part of that. With the second call to adventure, really was finding running, and it happened. I guess it happened pretty late because I had a lot going on in my life, so work was difficult. COVID took place. I hate talking about it like still these many years after, but COVID took place, made things very difficult for my business. I found it really hard. I'd been running a business for a long time, successfully enough, but COVID just put an extra strain and stress on that, which I wasn't really built to cope with, actually. So I found that very difficult. And running was the therapy, was the answer to that. And if I go back to the rugby days and coach said, make sure you do a 5k this week, I'd be like, oh, really? I hate 5k. You're like, come on. I hate it. I'd get it done, but I hated every second of it. I didn't enjoy it. It was always on tarmac, or it wasn't fun. It just was the wrong. It was the right type of running that doesn't really fit for me. Having said that, for some reason in lockdown I found running again, and it was very much tarmac running, and it was very much running around wherever I was allowed to run, right, because we were all stuck indoors and just being out was a different level of freedom. So I kind of fell into running that way, went down the route, was like, well, there was no races on, but I was like, well, I've done a 5k, I've done a 10k, I've done a half marathon. The next thing was, as soon as we could book one, I'll book a marathon. And I did a marathon. I did a few marathons. I enjoyed them. Did like Amsterdam and Paris and things that allowed me to go to other cities and go and experience a different culture. So it was almost like holidays with a run. It was a bit like that. But it was good fun. I enjoyed those for what they were. Don't really like the culture of what's your time going to be? That kind of thing. So I got wrapped up in it. Was always obviously trying to chase PBs. Always got PBs because I'd come from being a non-runner to a runner, so it was easy to do. But before you know it, well, actually not before you know it. I think really I ended up running that kind of running for a while. I always tell people that the way I got into the ultra scene was watching Rhys Jenkins' YouTube, Lighthouse in the Dark. Didn't even know really what ultra running was, didn't know that it was a sport out there. Watched him poodle around Wales. He'll hate me saying poodle, but that, he went all the way around Wales, and I was like, that's cool. That's, I never even thought of doing something like that. I didn't think that you could just go and do that. It didn't cross my mind. And I'd come from a cycling background. I've cycled all my life. And yeah, I'd never thought that you could just go and do something off your own back. It didn't occur to me. So I ended up Googling straight into his events. WildHorse 200. Well, that looks pretty cool. That's something that I could get on board with. Only ever run marathon distance at this point. So I figured, let's do a 200.
So from marathon
Yeah.
Skipped everything straight to 200.
I did do. I could forget the name of the company, but it's I trail event, some kind of event in Brecon that took place, which was a mountain marathon, which was all around Taliban and around the reservoir and all that stuff. So that was pretty hilly. I did that again, only a marathon distance, but I was like, well, that qualifies me. I've got totally the wrong trainers, but I got through it. It literally just all roads led to, well, I want to do more running in Wales. Again, it was a feeling of being small in the mountains and just being in that environment. And I thought, well, yeah, why not? I wanted to do something that I didn't think I was going to finish. And me being quite competitive, or very competitive, my wife will tell you, I thought, I'm not going to do something that I think is doable. And even 100, I know this going back now, it's so blasé and so big-headed of me, but I was like, 100 sounds possible. I figured I could walk that distance, or I could do that distance without really too much trouble. 200 is just, even on a map, it looks massive. And I think, again, from cycling, cycling 100 miles didn't phase me at all. Again, maybe having done quite a few of those sort of sportives and rides like that, and I've ridden to my in-laws like 90 miles away in Northamptonshire from my house, so that it wasn't like it didn't feel like that number really fitted. It didn't feel like a challenge.
Yeah.
So I thought it's going to have to be something that I don't think I'm going to complete. So there I was, signing up. Completely naive and not having a clue, but yeah, signed up and got myself on that start line.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
People are gonna hate me banging on about this, but this is something that I've been putting a lot of thought into recently. Have you heard of misogi?
Misogi, no.
So it's this Japanese concept where essentially it came from like old Tibetan scriptures and stuff,
Yeah.
but there was a group of monks that used to once a year hike up this like really awful mountain trail in their sandals and their robes and all their religious attire. They'd go to this waterfall at the top of the mountain, and they would bathe in the freezing cold water of this waterfall, and it was basically this one thing that they would do each year that was just like incredibly hard, that would reshape the rest of their year. So when they'd go back to the monastery, the usual things that you'd like, for us it'd be like daily life of like, oh, I'm late for work and things like that, like all of that stress would go because you've done this one really hard thing. And there's been like loads of research on it, and they've like modernized it now, made it like this real thing where it is a physical challenge you put yourself through once a year, but there has to be certain rules to it of like, it has to be scary but exciting, it has to be something that even on your best day, if all your training's gone perfectly, you turn up in the best shape of your life, there has to be a 50-50 chance of success. And that's
exactly it. Without knowing that, that's exactly what I was doing.
Yeah.
And again, I'll go back to the sort of the stresses of the work thing. That's what I was chasing. That's what I needed. It was probably an escape, or a reason to be outdoors, a reason to be doing something other than working and putting my mind through hell or whatever. So that was for me that's what I was on the hunt for, without realizing it was exactly that. So yeah, I was
I'm reading a whole book about it at the moment. It's called The Comfort Crisis. And it's all about like how people are too comfortable now.
Oh, 100%. We're way too comfortable. We are. I mean, my kids, I bang on about this all the time to the point where they probably had enough of me. But yeah, it's it's essential to get out of your comfort zone, to do things that are hard, to push yourself in whatever you do. It doesn't have to be running. It doesn't have to be outdoor adventure. It can be anything. But they need to learn how to do that. And I'm pretty relentless in pushing them in that direction and making sure that they understand what that is. And so I made my eldest daughter do, well, I made her, I said that we, and my wife, by the way, this is joint decision making, but we said she'd have to do the D of E, the Duke of Edinburgh Award. So she did the bronze. and she's going to hate me for talking about it, but she didn't really enjoy the hiking bit of it. Everything else was quite good. The volunteering that you have to do for it, the sort of the personal organisational skills of it and that kind of thing. But she really wasn't keen on the hike. She did it and she got it done, and fair play to her for that, because again, it's not easy if you're not an outdoorsy person or hiker. She's more of a dancer. Both of my girls are. But we've said that if she's not going to do the Duke of Edinburgh and do the Silver Award, she has to come up with a plan of her own. She needs something that she has to organise, something that she has to do and put together, so to speak. So whether it's a run or a hike or whatever, it could be literally anything, but it needs to be a physical challenge. She needs to do that and organise that herself. So yeah, I mean, my son's got no problem. He loves. I've taken him up Penny Van, and I've taken him all over places, but he loves it. But he'll have no problem doing like gold, silver, bronze, the whole lot. But yeah, with my daughter, I'm very much like, you're going to have to come up with something here.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think the other side of it that I really like as well is the fact that even on your best day, there has to be that 50% chance of failure.
Yeah.
I think we set our goals too realistic, and you just like, I think it's all well and good being like, I'm going to run my first marathon, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think everyone should have a challenge like that.
Yeah.
But then if you've spent like a 3 to 6 month block training for a marathon, and you know you're going to finish that marathon at the end of it, whether you've got like a time goal that you hit or not, like, I don't think that's like a big enough thing for, in my eyes, to be called a Masogi and to have that like life-changing effect.
Yeah.
It'll have like a really good boost to your confidence and stuff, but it's not going to be like I can imagine if I ran like my first marathon and I trained months for it, I go back to work the next week, I'm still going to have all the stresses from work. I'm still going to be like, oh, that's cool, I did a marathon, like, here's my medal, guys. After Medal Monday wears off, it's a bit like, oh yeah, like, back to it.
Exactly.
And yeah, just the fact that we then have to learn how to deal with failure, and again, that's something that we're all really bad at and we're all scared of. And I think that holds us back massively. Yeah,
absolutely. 100%. And I've learned through plenty of failure, I have to admit. I think it's the only way you really learn anyway. And to the point of the 200 as well with the WildHorse was, if you do marathon distance is great, and I can't knock it. I still enjoy it, and if someone says to me, do you want to do one tomorrow, I like to think that I'm always fit enough and ready just to go and say, yeah, I can do that. But that's also part of it, like being adventurous for me, is just being that level of fitness where you can just go and drop in and do anything. But with the 200, there's periods where your mind just goes so blank. I mean, it happens on hundreds, but there's just a complete blankness. Like, you're in periods of, I mean, I was on that, I call it a run, a bit of a jog, whatever it was, but I was on periods of days on my own. Like, I don't think that I saw anyone for the last few couple of days, at least, apart from at checkpoints. So you just have this kind of, and I don't really use my headphones when I'm running. Not in a race anyway. I tend to use them when I'm training, but like when I'm in that environment and in that run, I can't, trying to be as present as possible and in that moment. So I like to take in the views, and I hate the running at night because it's just looking at a head torch. But during the day, you know, just to be in amongst it and to totally let your mind go that blank that you don't even have a thought, like, and you come around to the point where you're like, oh, I haven't really had a thought for a few hours. It's just like, there's something about that I think that just I really like enjoy, and that I'd say it's a reset that probably I've been chasing or I've been after, and I definitely get it from doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, WildHorse 200 was no exception. It was good fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to do my first 100 this year, because I've not experienced any of that yet.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, you'll be fine, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't want it to just be fine. Like, I want the experience that everyone has. I want the hallucinations. I want that, like you're saying, that I've been alone for 2 days. Like, what is going on? So I got it from I did Epona. So after I'd done the 200, I had to track back and do some smaller events just to see what they were like. So I did the Edam, and then I've done the Epona, and Epona was great fun. That was a good day out. I trained really hard for that one,
because again, I've got this competitive side to me that I have to itch, and I'm always chasing a position. So although I'm in the moment during the race, there's a part of my brain on the other side that's probably going, right, bit quicker here, let's go, come on, you've walked the last few miles, let's get a bit quicker, let's put a little jog on here. So I have that to itch, if you like, and I trained really hard for the Epona, with a view to be, in my eyes, top 5. And I don't know what it is, but every race I've done, well, bar recent, I've just got my nutrition so wrong. So stomach cramps, feeling bad, food going in, not coming out, or not going in, not coming out, whatever. I just wasn't getting it right. So I had to really have a serious look at what I was doing, and train more with eating and do more with food whilst running, so that I was a bit more used to it and I understood a bit more what was going on. And I'm the kind of person who gets my head into a few books and reads a few things and that kind of stuff. So I want to say I've cracked it, but it's still early days. I did it on the spine just recently in January, and I got that perfectly right. Felt great all the way through. But that's I feel like it could turn on a sixpence tomorrow if I did another race tomorrow. I don't know if I've definitely got all the answers right, but I definitely think I've made the right steps towards getting that right. Yeah. So going back to Epona, run with my friend Matt, who I'd met through WildHorse as well. We've done quite a bit of stuff together. I'll go and run at his when I want to go and get some mountains in Wales. We were both in pretty good shape. They're very similar sort of shape as well. Both expecting to do fairly well. And there was me. First night, bang, needed to sleep. Didn't plan on sleeping because, in your head you're like, well, 24, 25 hours, something like that was really the goal. Came in just over 30 hours, but I needed to grab like an hour and a half sleep because something had to reset. Classic story, it wasn't going my way. So wasn't the one, but again, great fun. You definitely get the experience that you want from 100, in my opinion, with those races, because the amount of elevation and the tough terrain is, Epona especially for me was just, the mountains were pretty relentless. Not to scare you, but they were. But that's what I was up for that stuff. But they come thick and fast. So there's definitely periods through the night where you've got nav stuff and you've got all those all the admin, as we say, to get right, which I think is a large part of this long distance stuff. It's the admin, because the legs will pretty much get you to the finish line, I think, and depending, you may have to drop your speed, you might have to do a great deal of walking, but you'll get to the end. It's just whether you can get the admin right. And I think if I hadn't have chosen to take that hour and a half sleep, I wouldn't have finished. Maybe I would have carried on, there would have been more issues, or who knows what would have happened. I did manage to scare everyone watching me, because it was as you come off the back of like Walnfach and down the mountain, and it's a complete and utter dead zone. So I chose to sleep there in someone's camper van, and no one knew where I was. Where is he? Why is he asleep? The tracker goes down, there's no signal, there's no phone, so no one knew what was going on. And then just a couple of hours later, I pop back up and off the tracker goes around the map, and no one knew where I was. So you can imagine the phone was like, where are you? Are you okay? Jeez, yeah, I'm fine, don't worry about me. But it's all part of it, really, isn't it? So yeah.
It sounds like exactly the sort of experience I want. So looking forward to Epona, although it's a different route now. Yeah. Which I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I was really excited to do the famous Epona route, and now it's a different one. Yeah, I
haven't seen how different. I don't know what the changes are. Is it? Yeah.
But apparently it's harder.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
I think everyone goes into it with the goal of sub 24, right?
Well, yeah. Do you know what? Throw that out the door. I don't think that one we did, that was the first one. I don't think anyone got close to sub 24. No.
Nathan's the only person that has hit it, and he did it last year.
Yeah.
But then he did a 23:03.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've cut off an hour off the 24. You've done the 24 and some.
Yeah. Yeah, the man's a different level.
Yeah, incredible. Absolutely incredible. But I'd love to just everyone's always going on to me because I did the 6 ultras in 6 days last year, and they're
Yeah.
like, oh, you've done 230 miles in a week, you'll be fine. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not 100 in one go, is it?
Yeah.
Like, it is very different doing sort of staged events compared to an actual just straight through.
Yeah.
So
It's and actually there's a lot of people say that in outside of the running world, the first thing a lot of people say is, well, one, you're crazy, but two, have you thought about doing the marathon disciples? And I'm like, oh, it doesn't really appeal to me. Or what about the Dragon's Back? And I'm like, oh, listen, Dragon Back looks amazing, but that whole stop start thing and having a night's sleep thing, it's not really what I'm that interested in. I like the buzz of that constant race environment, and the hallucinations that come with it, and all the other bits and pieces, and again, it's the admin of it. I feel like I don't really want to take away from people that have done these things at all, because they're still incredible challenges, but it's the stop start bit that I'm not. There's an element of wanting to be off your feet when you've been on your feet for 200 miles, and so the thought of prolonging that 200 or making that longer by stop starting all the way through, I'm not going to say I wouldn't do it, but it hasn't been high on my priority list of things to do. So it's
definitely like a very different challenge. Like, everyone was saying to me, like, anyone that doesn't run was like, oh, that'll be easier because you've got that break in between, you can sleep and all that. And then people that do run these silly distances, they were like, oh, that might be harder because then, like, you've stopped, and then it's like you've gone home, you've had food, your hot meal, you've had a nice sleep in your bed, and then you've got to get up and go again. And then it's like, oh, do you really want to get up and go again? Like, the day after an ultra, you get up and you feel it in your body, and you're just like, oh, I'm glad I don't have to do that again.
Rest after a race is one of the best things. So I can't picture myself doing that. Stop, relax, unwind, and then put the trainers back on the following morning. Like, it's hard enough when you grab an hour's sleep in a race to put your trainers back on, let alone a whole night's sleep. I don't know. But you never say never.
Yeah. They're both amazing, don't get me wrong, but they are both very different challenges. So it's just, and like the thing with me is, like you're saying, like, there's the admin of it. Like, this was admin to another level, because it's not just like, what do I need on the run? It's like, well, we've got to organise where the checkpoints are going to be, because these aren't organised events. And it's like, then we need to organise who's driving where, like, roughly what time I'm going to be places, who's going to come out and run with me, and like, that whole admin side was another ball ache. So it's just it's the admin part it's a major part of it to get right. And actually, the first time doing it is hugely daunting. Like, I had no idea what to take, what to do. I eat veggie or plant-based as much as possible. So for me, I was like, well, what food do I take? I made all my own food. I took tons of it. And down to, like, I made potato salad and all these pastas, and I never touched any of it. I over-prepared in some areas and under-prepared massively in others. So concerned with the whole food thing and what I'm going to eat. And then I did the same thing the second time round. After WildHorse, doing Epona, and I was like, but I did the same thing, but just with different foods this time. So I'd seen someone, I can't even remember who it was, someone ran with jacket potatoes cold in there, and I thought, oh, great, I love jacket potatoes, but not when I'm running. No.
It's not, no. So
it doesn't sound pleasant.
Yeah, I think I ate one, and I ditched the rest. So. But yeah, I guess, I think for me, there's I eat as clean as possible and as healthy as possible, and what concerned me was the volume of sugar eating during a race, and I thought, it can't be great, it can't be good for you. Don't get me wrong, I know you need to, and I definitely did, but I think I made sugar my enemy, and so in periods of, like, cramping or that kind of thing, probably really what I needed was a nice big bag of Haribo, and off I go. But instead, you try and persist through other means and do other things. As I say, I got it wrong. I probably ate the wrong things prior to a race, maybe leading up to it. So all that stuff you kind of learn, and as I say, the admin, it becomes a part that you need to get right. So it's not just 2 feet. It's well, how do I how do I fuel is a major part of it, but then you've got all the kit, and trust me, with the spine was on a whole another level. I mean, everyone's probably heard about the kit list for it and having it checked and having the right stuff for it, but it's like having the right sleeping bag. How much does it weigh? Is it going to be it's in my pack the whole time? What bivvy bag goes with that? Does it fit inside of it? How can I really tell unless I can see it in the flesh? And you're ordering stuff online, and you haven't got a clue until it arrives. What trainers we're going to run in? These people over here are saying they're running in these, and them over there say they're running in them. And what's the best thing? You can so get wrapped up in the whole kit debacle before you even get there. But I think you to do something like that, you've really got to have some experience. I would say doing 200 without that much experience wasn't as difficult. I'd say the spine is such a totally different beast that you've really got to have some experience. You've got to have practiced quite a bit in kit and know what stuff you will and won't need, what's vital, what's not, the things that aren't on the list that you might probably want to take with you. That's it. It's a minefield of stuff to get through, and I've only really feel like I've gained that experience from doing WildHorse, Epona, that kind of stuff, to be able to say that I was qualified, if you like, to be able to enter, because the conditions on that were just I mean, the bogs in the UK in the winter are one thing, but the Pennine Way was just like it's just swimming pools. I mean, it was like well over. You could wear knee-high waterproof socks, and there were bogs going over that, so you were going to get wet feet. It was unavoidable. Where we'd had so much rainfall through all of December and into January, the bogs were just bursting like riverbanks. They were monstrously huge, and I mean, there's sections of that Pennine Way that are laid in limestone slabs, which is all well and good, but the freezing conditions meant you couldn't see the ice. It was like frozen puddles. I remember putting my stick into a bog next to. I mean, I don't really get how these slabs were even still there, because they sort of sunk under the puddle, so it was underwater. I just stuck my pole in and the pole disappeared, and you think, what's holding the slabs up? And again, having a landscaping background, I kind of was like worried. I didn't really want to tread on anything like that, because as soon as you see slabs that are that it can't be long till it just caves into this bog and disappears. But I mean, when I say the stick went in, honestly, I think if you'd have gone in, you'd have been chest height. It was scary stuff, and in the middle of the night, when all you've got to do is follow limestone slabs with your head torch, it becomes a real mind game. Just putting one foot in the front of the other in the right place and not sliding across the ice. And it's I'd say for every 20 slabs, 2 of them were going to be frozen. So it was just slow going, like treacherous conditions. And then you reach the peaks, and where we'd had snow, the snow had drifted up into huge drifts of snow, which were crusty on the top from the cold conditions. And then you'd sort of every 5 or 6 steps you'd just disappear, and you'd go up to your waist in snow. So then you're trying to sort of clamber out and get across. And I hadn't seen any of these conditions doing summer runs in Wales. It was a totally different experience, which was great. But the challenge of that is it was a whole nother level. It really was.
How do you even prepare for something like that? Like, that's very specific conditions.
Yeah, really, and every year's different on the spine, right? I mean, we saw all the records being broken when it was all frozen over that 2 years ago. So it was great for running over the bogs that year, because it was all frozen over. This time around, we had, I'd say, frozen conditions, but really wet conditions. So not everything was frozen, and not everything was. It was just very, very, very difficult. I signed up for that experience. Did I sign up on one of the toughest years on record? Maybe, I don't know. But it delivered. I wanted that, and it delivered. But as for prep, I don't know how you do prep for that, because unless you live near those areas, and I don't, I didn't have the chance to get that kind of running in beforehand. I thought I knew about bogs. I thought I knew how to cope with them. Generally, I try and avoid them, right? Because there's nothing worse than soaking wet feet. But I think with a lot of the bogs through the Brecons and through South Wales, you can avoid them. You can find a tuft of grass to run around on, or you can definitely skip over a few of them. But these were just more like sort of ponds and big ponds, and you're going through them. So that was very different, and all the while trying to keep yourself dry, because the last thing you want in those cold conditions is wet feet, because they're not going to recover. I mean, it was 40 miles between checkpoints, so a 40-mile section with wet feet, if you got wet at the start of that, then they're wet for that whole time period. I mean, stopping to change socks is obviously an option. I had them in the bag, but in my head, you change your socks, what if they get wet again in another 5 miles? Or so I I was trying to keep the socks back for when I really need them, if you know what I mean. So would I go back and treat it differently? Maybe I'd have more spare socks in the bag. That's one part, but I didn't know that, so I was sort of trying to ration socks.
I think it's amazing how, like, now when people look at you, they'll be like, wow, amazing ultra runner. You say you've signed up to something like Dragon's Back or whatever, people will be like, yeah, awesome. But go back to you playing rugby and being like, oh, do I have to run a 5k? It really does show like that anyone can do this sort of thing. Like, you just need to put a bit of graft in. Like, you put the work in, you can go from 5k to marathon to 200 miler, big jump, and then be like, I'm doing the Spine, like one of the hardest races in the UK, like, for sure. The winter Spine is up there.
I should put a caveat on that, because it was only the 160 Northern Challengers version, which I feel like it feels like a cop-out saying that I've only done the 160-mile version, but I genuinely couldn't get online and get into the main race. It's just so sought after, and annoyingly Matt got onto it and I didn't, so he was doing the full one. I watched him finish, which was amazing. Well done to him as well, but it did make me feel like I've got to come back and do it again, because I could only get onto the 160-mile version. But it's been an amazing journey, and I think having that, going back to the rugby part, I had that lapse. I fell out of love with the gym, maybe kept going for a bit, wasn't that much in love with it. So I had a chance to drop a lot of weight, probably from like 110 kilos down to I'm about like 92, 93 now, pretty regularly. So I dropped a lot of weight, which allowed me to be able to run, because running as 110 kilos is not easy compared to what I am now. And I'd say if I could shift a bit more, that'd be incredible, but I'm not. I kind of like where I'm at right now, and I enjoy what I'm doing, and running isn't my only thing. So, I do like to be able to be fit enough now to do other stuff. I've fallen back in love with the gym, thanks to the gym I go to. Shout out to Locker. But the stuff that they're doing, I've been training really hard down there. It's taken some time to adjust from doing like loads of max reps to doing much more conditioning, and finding different exercises that I had no clue about. So the guys down there have definitely helped me in that respect. That's made going up mountains so much easier. And I have to admit, the block I've done before the Spine now was really beneficial, because I hadn't really had much chance to get any elevation in since probably like the summer. Decided to do some a bit of a rejig on the house and do some work at home. So training hasn't been as good as I was hoping it could be. Managed to get myself a treadmill so that I could keep those miles going, but the priority had to be doing stuff at home and doing the house. Which I've loved doing as well, but it didn't give me the prep that I wanted for something like this. So I entered this with a very different mindset to normal, which was I just wanted to complete it. Whereas normally I'm like, I want to be here, I want to be there, I want to be in that, position, or I do get a bit too wrapped up in that, and rightly or wrongly, but I would say that stuff motivates me to train. So I don't knock that competitive side, because it allows me to train hard so I can hopefully race hard, or whatever the phrase might be. But this time around it didn't quite go to plan, so I put more emphasis on the strength and conditioning. That went pretty well, to be honest, which meant post spine, I didn't have really the issues that I've had of previous races. So I might not have done the elevation. I did have a great block in the summer. I went back to the WildHorse again in the summer, and DNF'd, which was again a massive learning curve. Happened to have COVID on the start line but didn't realise it, so was kind of feeling lack of energy through the race. Thought to myself, I just need to get the right food on board, do this, I'll feel better later. Never really came, and I kind of battled on to like 81 miles, and this had happened from sort of mile 30, and I'd actually gone out with Natalie as well at the start, and I felt like her pace was great. I felt like we, be it I only did about 20 miles with her, but the pace was good, everything felt good, and then energy levels just sapped, disappeared. And then I was getting my mate PJ to crew me from like, I got him to see me every 5 miles at one point, or wherever he could, because I felt like it was just a battle. And I think I finished on Torrey Fall climb, which is like, if anyone's ever done that, it's like 4 false peaks which just go on for ages, and I was so slow up that it was unbelievable. And I thought, I think this is it. I think I'm gonna have to bow out here. But again, really didn't want to. But I was just, if it takes me this long, I could be out here for days, days and days doing this. And it's only post race that I realised that actually I had COVID, and there was an explanation for it. But at the time, you're like, what's wrong? Why isn't it working? Why can't I do what I need to do? Because the training for that, as I say, was amazing. I'd done some awesome stuff. I'd even been out. A few friends of mine had been out to Mallorca for a week cycling. I joined them for the week and just ran the whole week, which was another level out there, but was doing great numbers, running really hard. Everything was going really, really well. And then came back. The thing I thought was going to stop me was actually a broken toe 2 weeks before the start. I was delivering a devastating people's elbow to my son. And as I've done that, we're just messing around at home, and I've managed to kick the bed and broke my two little toes on my right foot. No. So I think the problem was I then didn't run for 2 weeks when I should be tapering off a bit more gently. I thought the best thing is to not run for 2 weeks, tape the toes up, keep them out of action, and I guess from not running, maybe my immune system said, yeah, let this on board, and who knows what, but it didn't go to plan. So again, learnt a bit from that one, but I did have a really good block of training. Is the point, right up until like that what was it, June, May? When's it? Yeah, May. And so that was still in my legs. I think I rode the back of that for up into the spine. So it was still there, but again, I the elevation I did leading up through like November, December was almost non-existent. Yeah. So yeah.
From a S&C point of view then, because I'm massive into S&C, as you know, what was you doing differently? Because you were saying like whatever you was doing really helped with the spine. Like, what was you doing differently compared to previously that helped? I guess it's all about the number of reps is the big thing, right? So number of reps and lowering the weights, which I guess I knew that. I wasn't like, I've actually worked in gyms in my younger life, but I know that I knew this stuff. I didn't know how to navigate what was good for me as a runner, because that part of my life was fairly new. So it was dropping the weight in a deadlift, where I'd be trying to max weight. This time round it was lower the weight and up the reps, and then I guess there was just a lot more focus on the types of exercises I should be doing and what was needed to maintain that strength. That I probably still had a great deal of strength from playing rugby. I just needed to fine tune that in a different way. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. What sort of rep ranges are you now looking at? Because I'm assuming like from rugby you'd be looking at the lower end, like maybe like maximum volume you're looking at is like a 5x5 plan.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
Exactly, yeah. So it's more like sort of 10, 12, 15 reps in whatever exercise is doing, really. And probably three sets of 12 would be the ideal number in whatever exercise, really. That generally across the board, I'd say.
Yeah.
And that seems to have helped considerably.
Was you sort of like pushing the weight with that and trying to get up to like that sort of like RPE like 8-9 or
so I guess you're going still so a great deal of it will be still to fatigue. So if you can get 12, great, but if 10's enough, then that's fine. So you still know you're working something, right? So you're not knocking out 12 real easy reps. It's still there's still some level of fatigue in there, and quite often it would be a case of getting to 10 and be like, right, I haven't got another one in me.
Okay. Because I always see, like, especially runners, when they go and do an S&C plan, and I just look at it and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, because I think you need the heavy stuff, and you've obviously got a background of the heavy stuff from rugby. Yeah. So they need that aspect to them, because most of them haven't done it. So they're just not robust enough to then also tolerate the higher loads anyway. Yeah. But then if I do see them doing stuff, then it's like, oh yeah, you're doing like 3x8 to 12, which is a great rep scheme. Yeah. But also, like, are you pushing yourself in that? Are you progressing the weight over weeks? Like, there's no progressive overload. You're just doing the same weight because you've seen online, like, oh, someone does like 40 kilo squats, so I'm doing 3 lots of 8 to 12 40 kilo squats for months on end. So it's nice hearing a runner be like, yeah, no, like, I'm still fatiguing myself. I'm still pushing the weights.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely sessions I've gone home and it's like, you get the 2-day burn afterwards. It's like I do that on a Tuesday, and then you go on Thursday, like, oh, I don't think I've got this in me, but somehow you do it anyway. But yeah, I've tried to do 3 times a week, but quite often it ends up being 2. But yeah, I guess I'm still quite physical in my work life, if you so to speak. So I don't worry too much, but I know that the things that I do in the gym are definitely, I would say, it's the tweaking, it's the fine tuning that I'm doing. I don't need to go and do like massive squats and stuff like that I was doing before. So yeah, much more focus on like deadlifts. And split squats and goblin squats, that kind of stuff. All that stuff's so much better than what I would have probably done for myself previously, and it shows. It's definitely I've seen a progression, and as I say, I've come off a hilly run feeling like I'm all right. So it's definitely working.
Yeah, definitely. What's your sort of training split looking like then with the gym? Is it mostly just like I'm doing like these almost accessory leg exercises predominantly, or have you got like a general split you follow? I have a PT on a Thursday, and I'll go through a session on a Thursday. So he's very much putting together what I'm doing for my Thursday session. So I see him once a week, and then on I try to go like Tuesday and sometimes on a Saturday. But those sessions are I'll do a bit more isometric stuff. I try and do plyometrics at least once a week, and I still get to the point where I'm like, my calves are on fire for like 3 days after that. So I guess I need to do that a bit more often. And actually, as a result, I get the lads at the 10-year-olds at rugby to do that as well. So we've incorporated a lot more plyometrics into their stuff. I'm so glad to hear that. Like, I am a massive like advocate of plyos. Yeah. They are probably the best thing a runner can do for their performance. I would totally agree, and
the transformation's unbelievable. I think for speed, for strength, and the big thing for any runner on any long distance is ankles afterwards. There's always going to be overworked tendons down there. There's going to be swelling. There's going to be pain. It doesn't. If you're going to run anything over 100, or I'd say even include the 100 on that. If you're going to do any distance like that, then you're going to get ankle problems. Your feet are going to swell. That can't be helped. So it's how you manage that, what you do leading up to that to reduce that, which will, and again, the recovery times for me have come down completely. Like doing the first WildHorse was, I couldn't walk for 10 days. I was literally laid up. and using a walking stick to get around the house. There's a video of me crawling in my mate's house the day after. I just couldn't put any weight through my feet at all. I'd done something. I had to see a physio for my left ankle. Naively, the training I'd done leading up to that wasn't. I'd done loads of running. I don't think I was doing anywhere near the right strength and conditioning for the first WildHorse. So yeah, the ankles were in absolute bits. And then 10 days later, I started to use a band. I couldn't even use a band for the first, I'd say 8 days. And then I started to use a band just to get me back on my feet. And bless my wife, she's like, this is what's going to happen. I don't think you should do running. I don't think it's wise that we this many days out after you've already been away for a week. So it wasn't great. But again, learn load from it. Change up what you do after that. I think the Epona prep was so much better, and coming off the back of that, I honestly felt like I could have run the following day. I didn't. I'm a big believer in rest and recovery, but I felt okay. I felt good, and it's got better every time. So I know I'm doing the right stuff. I can tell. It really does feel like there's been a huge progression.
Yeah. With the gym work, then, do you ever feel like it's taken away from the specific running work? Like, do you feel like you've dropped your mileage, and is that even an issue for you?
Yeah, I definitely at the moment, again, I say with the stuff we've been doing at home on the house, I'm doing a lot of that work. So my daily routine and trying to juggle everything at once, and 3 kids needing to get to school and all the rest of it, it is definitely doing more weights or doing more strength work has 100% reduced my running, because I would run 6 days a week, and now if I go to the gym, I will run on like if I go to the gym on a Thursday morning, I'll run Thursday evening, but I'll only probably do a shorter run. It won't be, I'm probably not getting in the longer runs during the week. They're more at the weekend now. So I'm sort of trying to find a bit of balance there to increase the running at the moment. But then I'm a big believer in the rest and the recovery, and I just took the time off after spine, because I haven't got anything now till the summer really. So take the time off, let the body fully recover and heal. My HRV was definitely way down, so let that come back naturally. I don't have to force that, and when it does come back, you feel like you're totally ready to get back into the training again, and just pick up where you left off. You don't drop anything in a month. You don't really lose that much. You might find the first few runs are a bit hard to get back into, but you don't lose that much ability. You really just build on what you did previously. Yeah. What is it? I think scientists reckon it's like 81 days. You don't drop anything in that time frame. So it's only after that you tend to lose speed or lose the ability. And I would always include, I've included speed work in the last year and a half a lot more. So I'll always do sprints every week. I'll do a sprint and a threshold session where possible. And then the rest of that time is just made up of as much running as I can physically do that week. Which in sort of training weeks will look like anything from 50 to 70 miles. But it all depends what's going on. Yeah. It can't be. I love it, and I wish I could prioritize running, but it has to be. The priorities need to be. It has to be family first. Yeah. It has to be life, and the other things that are going on. So, it's. But it always makes you feel good when you can get a good week in. So, I do. When I'm in mid training or training really hard, I'll do a lot more early morning stuff, but. Like at the moment, I haven't really been doing that much. A little bit, maybe a couple of times early mornings, but I'm not getting up like 5 days a week at 5 a.m. like I would do the rest of the time. So it just goes in peaks and troughs, and I'll pick it back up in the weeks to come, and then and then the focus kicks in again, and it all starts all over again.
The endless cycle.
Yeah, it is. But without that downtime, you can't appreciate the other time. So, completing something is the greatest time to stop and say, "That was awesome. Let's do some other stuff now," and then and then let it just naturally kick back in later on. So,
yeah, I'm definitely the one that's guilty of trying to keep on top of it, being like, well, that's done, next thing, done, next thing, keep going building on this, like build the momentum, and it's like, no, you do need that. Okay, breathe, and then rebuild. Like I say it in all my training plans, like just the whole periodized like plan where it's like, right, I'm building to a peak. After the peak, we have some downtime, like take a week off, have a deload, and then we're starting not where we were, but like we're above where we were at the start of that block, and then you build to a higher peak. And it's this up and down, but then it's really easy, especially in running and events, to be like, oh well, I got this next event and it's only 6 months away. It's like 6 months is actually quite a long time. You can take a couple of months off and still be like more than all right. Absolutely.
It's I think from a psychological point of view, I finish something, I have to have the next thing in the diary. But once I know that's sorted, if I don't have anything, I think I definitely struggle. In the same way, I also struggle when I don't run. I do find I really find it like I guess therapeutic, and a lot of people say that when they come on here, but it really is. And so if I don't run, I do have days when I probably get I'm a little bit more. I'll just go a bit quiet, and my wife will say, "Do you need a run?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think I do." So I'll have a run. But there's once you know that you've got the next thing booked, I'm all right with that, and that's why this last 4 weeks I've gone, I'll just chill out a bit more. That's fine. And I've still maintained some running. I've done more gym. I've probably been to the gym most days. And then I know the summer's coming up, and I like to do a bit of riding as well on the bike. So I've just pushed the bike a bit more. And the bike's been great for the recovery from the running because it's obviously a lot less impact. So then I've just picked up the bike. Last few weeks I've done much more of that, and just in the gym, using the bike in the gym, getting on board with that and doing some more of that has been great, just to keep VO2 going or whatever. But it's nice to transfer, do other stuff, and then, as I say, you just pick it back up. Really, I've been picking it back up this last week, so all good.
Awesome. I want to go into something that's a bit of an odd one for people that are listening. Like, it won't be odd to you. Your world record. Because I didn't. I've heard about you from Matt, who I don't even know that well myself, but he's going to be coming on the podcast soon as well. And then, like, he introduced me to you, and like we met briefly at an event, and then I heard about your world record then, and I was like, sorry, what? What is this world record? So I'll let you explain.
So I've always wanted to do something for charity, and I've always struggled with, like, I did a couple of marathons for charity, and I just threw up a page. Right, I didn't really put too much into it. Throw it on Instagram, do whatever. I didn't like go too heavy on it. I know what it's like when you get these things all the time. If people want to sponsor, great. But I thought, well, I just always had that burning ambition to do one big thing for charity, and not just one big thing. I'd like to go and do more. But I was like, I need an event. I need something I could get my teeth into, something that falls at the right sort of time in between. And it was like for November. I did it for Movember because I'd struggle with my mental health quite a lot through the work stuff, and to the point where I didn't seek help really. I worked my way through it like a true guy, didn't really tell other people about it, and just cracked on, and I really wish that I had reached out, and Movember seemed like a good fit because they're all about that, and trying to reduce male suicide, and all the positive work that they're doing in that area. So I just figured it was a great fit to do it for. It just so happened that it worked with the world record that I was chasing, which was to mow for 24 hours, the furthest distance in 24 hours with a lawnmower. So November time, there was nothing race-wise, diary, nothing really in the running. So I was like, this is a great thing to kickstart my training for doing the WildHorse again. So I had a target. This world record has gone back and forth from Australia to the UK, and some people have done it unofficially, some people have done it officially, and it's gone back and forth, and there's quite a lot of banter online and stuff going on, and I think my son had even seen it in his world record book, which is why I was like, oh, that seems like a great thing to do. The world record, a bit attached to it, just meant it was a driver for raising hopefully as much money as possible. It just sounded like a really good challenge. So yeah, set everything up, got it all ready, did it at the rugby club. So I did it for Movember and also for the rugby club, because they're trying to get facilities for women's rugby at the club, which we don't currently have. So I thought that was another really good thing to be involved in and to raise money for. So yeah, going around the rugby pitch, around the first team pitch, created a real nice dent in the lawn. Going all the way around. But what I'd failed to realise is that the Aussies have all been doing this in their summertime in November around cricket pitches. So they're just going in a circle, no corners. And there's me going around a rugby pitch in November when it's soaking wet. The grass was too high until I'd cut that down the first few laps, because it had to be running, it had to be going.
Okay.
So I got sponsorship from Steel lawnmowers. Steel make all the garden equipment. So they got me the lawnmower. So I had this really lightweight battery powered thing I knew I could go behind and just push for ages non-stop. And I did some practice runs. I did like some stints of about 6 hours just to see what it was like, how it's going to feel. And to be honest, the thing was so lightweight, it was like pushing nothing anyway. But I did have a target of like 100 miles in mind, and I thought that was easily doable. I think that the record was like 92, I think it was, something like that, and I managed to get 96. Once I got to 92, my my motivation really dropped. But what I hadn't anticipated was what a great event it would be at the club. And we finished on the Sunday, started Saturday. What was it? Like 2:00 in the afternoon or something. And so we finished when all the like juniors were playing rugby at the club on the Sunday. So we had like all the like young players doing like a guard of honour with their flags, the Chobham flags for our rugby club, and people were down there just drinking and socialising anyway. So everyone was coming out and like watching me finish this thing off, and it was great fun to do. And this as the sense of community that it created was something I just didn't anticipate quite, and it was an awesome thing to do and be involved in, as well as like sort of family and friends that had to come down and be like adjudicators and whatever else. And so that was quite good fun. I have to say, because my mate will kill me for not saying it, but I didn't get the world record, which is a real bummer, because we fell short with the Guinness World Record standards, where you had to have it recorded. If you're not going to pay to have someone come down from there, it's really hard to get a world record, if I'm honest. All the paperwork was fine, we did all our stuff correct, but we fell down on 3 different recordings. We had it like live streaming, but it was intermittent because of the signal. We had like a camera up, which was I had like night vision or whatever going on, that had a corrupted file when we downloaded it, and then the CCTV from the rugby club ended up being too grainy and it didn't qualify us for the records. It wasn't meant to be.
All that, it was just like, yeah, you didn't film it though.
Yeah,
doesn't count. Not on camera.
Didn't get it. So I wasn't about that, because it was about raising money. And as I say, the fact that doing a world record just it puts it in the spotlight a bit more. Getting local press and stuff like that was a bit easier to do, and it was beaten like 3 weeks later by a guy called Andreas out in Australia. He beat me the 3 weeks later. And he did just reach the 100-mile mark as well, so yeah, well done to him. But it was always about raising money, and it was always about like what we could do with an event like that. I have to admit, I've learned a lot from it, and there will be other things I'm sure in the future, now that I know what I'm doing, and hopefully how to work a camera a bit better.
How did it come about, the whole mowing for 24 hours though? Because it just seems so out of the blue.
It was I'd gone down a rabbit hole trying to find things that were perhaps rugby related. I'd been in touch with some other charities. There's a great rugby charity called Loose Heads, which do loads of work again for mental health within the rugby world. And so I'd gone down a few rabbit holes and tried to find things to do. There was other ones like the most tackles in there was a few on the table, but I just felt like I think it was my son Max. He found it, and it just sort of fitted with obviously landscaping world and running world. It kind of was like a blend of the two, so it just seemed the moment I saw the record I was like, yeah, that's it. I've got to do that. And it just sounded like it was totally achievable. I was like 92 miles at the time. Just sounded it was well and truly achievable. I knew that much. I went out with a view to walk the first 12 hours as quick as I possibly could to save myself for the second 12, if you know what I mean. I just thought it was going to be so monotonous that I thought it wouldn't be an easy thing to complete. But in hindsight, I would have run more of the first 12 hours because I think I would have cracked that 100-mile a lot better. I'm not going back and doing it again, but it was good fun. It was a good thing to do. Lessons learned. Lessons learned. It wasn't easy on a rugby pitch. It really wasn't.
I can't imagine it was.
No.
It just sounds wild because I know people that have done 100 milers in 24 hours. I know people that have done 100 milers down a promenade and round a roundabout and all sorts. There was a guy that recently came on the podcast that did 24 hours round a park, just running, and he got over 100 miles. I think it was close to 120 miles.
Yeah.
Another guy running around a cricket pitch, I think. I can never remember, but he did over 120 miles in the 24 hours. You're doing that with a lawnmower. Surely
and
that changes
turning a corner. The four corners was the thing that I didn't bugger my knees up, but it was just that same movement of just all four corners of the pitch was just, it was a killer, just doing the same thing. And I keep seeing these things on Instagram where people, I don't know if you've seen in triathlons at the moment, there's people do that spin round thing the opposite way because they do the same turn so much, they're doing the spin thing. And if I'd have known that, maybe I would have
would that work with the lawnmower?
I don't know. Well, you could just push the lawnmower, do a little turn, and it looked like I'd be dancing on
the
all four
lawnmower
corners.
one way, you're turning the other way. Oh, that'd look hilarious.
Yeah.
Does that not change your running gait at all, though? Surely.
Yeah, you did. But you know what? If you anything again, 100 milers plus, there's a lot of walking involved in this. And I've kind of a few people have commented on my walking style. It's particularly quick. I trained myself for that lawnmower event by trying to do as quick speed as possible. So I think I got to 4.9 miles an hour, which is a lot of people's slow jog pace. So I was crossing the boundary of walking and running, and I was able to walk that fast. I think I kept an average of 4.7 miles an hour for the first 12 hours. So
that is a fast walk.
It was fast, and so people were joining me to do a lap with me, and they weren't able to keep up with me. So I was absolutely crushing it, which is why I said I thought I'd walk the first 12 so that I wasn't going to get negative splits, but I thought I'd have the energy then to maintain a lot more running in the second half of it. But yeah, it's I would definitely do it on a cricket pitch next time in the summer.
It sounds like just one of those just nonsense events. Again, it sounds a bit like a Masogi. It's just so physically challenging, and you're just I don't know if this is even possible, but it's kind of exciting because it's different.
And it definitely transferred into the running, right? Because again, I was able to walk when people were walking uphill and feeling tired and this is a bit tough. I'm off. See, I'm gone. So I was able to walk uphill at some rate still, and still I feel like I've always maintained that. But I think it goes back to that whole competitive thing, right? It's how quick can I do this? And sometimes I'm just competing with myself. There doesn't need to be anyone out there, and I'm like, how quick can I do this? How quick can I get from here to there? It's just, there's a lamppost, and it's how quick can I get to it? I'm like that a lot. So it's as I say, it's a nice rest when your mind does go blank. You don't have to think about that stuff so much.
So, bit of advice for any ultra runners out there: if you want to get better up the hills, push a lawnmower around a rugby pitch for 24 hours. It'd be great at walking the hills.
It helps. It definitely helps.
I want to go back to something that I found really interesting that you brought up quite a lot at the start. And that was your call to adventure was essentially you feeling really small in the vast world. I know for a lot of people that is something that's quite almost intimidating and off-putting about the outdoors. That whole, unknown and that feeling small. Like, people want to feel valued and like they mean something, right?
Yeah.
But you're like, I like that feeling of feeling alone, like being in the mountains and just being like, I am like nothing right now.
Yeah, there's something about that and that feeling that I think you have to embrace it to do this stuff. Definitely. I mean, you do feel small, and I think it's important to feel small sometimes. And so I've maybe my mindset is I chase that rather than avoid it. I thrive on it. I feel like I find my place in the world better when I'm hit with that kind of almost daunting feeling. You know, you are tiny. I mean, I remember seeing being on a glacier for the first time. Again, this was, I think it must have been. So we'd taken holidays as a family to Austria, and we'd been out there in the winter, and we went back for a summer holiday. So I want to, memory doesn't serve me well, but I want to say I may have been 14, 15 at this age, and walking up through the mountains and seeing a glacier for the first time. Like, I don't even think I knew what one was, if I'm honest, and just being the scale, the size of it, the view, like my peripheral, it was in everything. My view was this monstrously huge thing, which you couldn't put it into context. And I think the only other thing that kind of does that is like when people talk about space as well. It's like that, the sense of being on a planet and the next one's millions of miles away, and the numbers are just completely staggering, and it's so incomprehensible that it just puts you right back into a place of live for the moment. And that's what I get from it. That's how I feel when I'm in that situation. I completely live in the moment. All of my life I live in the moment. I don't remember rugby scores at games I've been to, or I don't remember things that have happened a year ago. I can't even remember what year I did WildHorse. but I live in that moment. I don't really look too far into the future either. And I think that stuff, being in that environment, or being or embracing that kind of feeling, is what keeps you exactly where you should be. And it's that I just feel like I thrive on and love so much. And a great example has been, you know, there's parts of where I live I wouldn't run at night, but running through South Wales and coming through, I can't remember where I was now, but it was the last 15 miles of the WildHorse. You know, you're coming into Rossili, you're not far away, and through those wooded sections there, I must have heard, I don't even know how many owls hooting away, and that's the only sound I heard for miles, and no one else around. And you can't see any. It was pitch black, couldn't see a single thing, but the owls are hooting away. And again, it doesn't need to be a massive mountain. Sometimes it can just be that sense of being in complete darkness, nothing but the sounds of nature, and you're humbled straight back down to where you are and what you're doing. And if I'm honest, that kept me from hallucinating a little bit as well, because I was definitely going off track by that point.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think this again is something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, is the difference between, because essentially what it sounds like is there's this drive to want to be alone, and I think there's this very weird thing that we get as humans where there's a real difference between being alone and being lonely.
Yeah.
Like, you can be a room full of people and feel lonely, but then you can be out on a 200-mile race in the middle of the forest in pitch black listening to owls and be completely alone. But they're two very different feelings, and one's like quite a positive feeling, the other one's very negative. And I think with how connected we are, like, and this sounds stupid because we're recording a podcast right now, but like the amount of people that when they're alone, there's always something on, whether it's the TV or whether they're listening to a podcast or listening to music, or they've got something on their mind. Like, they're never really like alone, and being completely removed from that, like being in the mountains, like you said, like looking at space, being in space. I always see it as like when you go to like the beach and you're looking out the vastness of the ocean, like all of those sorts of things. I think that's where people really get that experience of wow, I am alone right now. Like, there's no one else here, there's nothing else going on, and it's weirdly calming.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can just be here. Whereas if you're like that in like a busy sort of cityscape, and you're like, I am alone, like I'm on my own, you're not listening to anything, but there's loads of people going about, and you get that feeling of that insignificance of you, the same that you do in the mountains and stuff, but it's a different feeling because everyone else is there.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we as humans are missing more because of how compact society is now.
I 100% agree, but I think it's all about that balance as well, because I've found that having that part of my life, or having those experiences, is key, and I love it, and I can't wait for the next time I can do that. I can't wait for the next time I can have 4 days or 3 days running non-stop with nothing else to think about, and in my head I kind of, when you get to that blank point, you go, I've got nothing else to do. Just keep putting your foot in front of the other. Like, there's nothing. You've got nothing else on today. Like, there's nothing going on. Just run. That's all you got to do. And it does. It reminds me that that's such a sense of freedom to be able to do that. And I really look forward to the parts of being on my own. But then on the other side of that, for balance, is I've found myself more and more now looking for social interaction and having the social side of it as well, and the gym runs a little run club. We've been doing it for like, I don't know, nearly 40 weeks. It's only like, there's 10 of it. There've been about 10 of us regularly through the winter. It's not a huge group, but it's just that little thing of like going out with a group of people. All my running's alone, so I just don't see people. And the sad part is, you say to people, "Oh, we'll go for a run," and they're like, "Oh, I won't be able to run with you." Like, no way, I can't. I won't be able to keep up with you. Like, most of my running is pretty slow. Like, generally I'm like zone 2 or like top end zone 1. Like, it's slower than you think. But yeah, I end up running a lot of miles alone, and so to have social groups and be able to do that stuff, I've also found that I've thrived on and enjoyed more than I anticipated, because you just go, oh yeah, I'm just used to running alone. But you're used to running alone when it suits you, but when a lot of the time you're also craving being with other people and sharing some of those experiences as well. And so I just find it's having a good balance. And as I say, like, the gym's got a great social scene. I've got a great sets of friends, and I haven't seen them that much through the winter. I'm going to be able to go and see them and do stuff more with them. I think, again, post-COVID sort of generation, we're lacking that a bit. It hasn't happened. It hasn't kick-started back in like it did pre-COVID. So I find in myself craving social environments and social settings more and more with other people. So yeah, it's about balance, definitely. Yeah. And in fact, we always joke about my youngest, because she's 6 and she's literally never been without anyone. She's never been on her own, because she's sort of born just before COVID, so she's always been around the family. She's never on her own. She never goes to a room on her own. She struggles to go to bed alone anymore. She doesn't like being in her own company. She doesn't know how to do it. I think there's a lot of the younger generation are perhaps missing that part, and the more of them that can find, it doesn't have to be running, but the more people can find these situations and see what you can get out of it. I mean, the start line of any ultra or long distance run is the most eclectic field of people you could ever dream of seeing, and there's all sorts of people completing these things and getting different things out of these experiences. I like to think that the one thing that sort of does tie a lot of people to these events is the fact that you're just out in nature and you get to experience that for yourself in whatever capacity or way it might be. And it may be with somebody else running alongside you, or it may be in a group or on your own. But I like to think that everyone's just experiencing that in their way, and hopefully looking up and not just looking at the path the whole time. So yeah.
No, I think they're very good points, to be fair. Like, you need that aloneness, but you also need that connection. I think what's sort of stopping maybe both of it from happening is that sort of middle ground of technology. Of like, it's so easy to feel connected, because it's like, I can just message someone, and it's like, I can call them if I want, or video call, or I can just look on Instagram or Facebook and I can see what people are doing all the time, and like, I can listen to podcasts and feel like I've had this chat with people before where they've been like, I feel like I know you, like complete stranger, because I've listened to you so much. Like they're like, I listen to every episode, I know your voice, and you have no idea who I am, but like I feel like I know you.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, but doesn't that seem a bit odd?
Yeah.
Like feeling like you know someone that you've never met.
Yeah.
And like, does that feel like a real connection, or is that maybe feeding into this loneliness that sort of seems quite prevalent these days, of like, well, you feel connected and you're getting this almost fake connection, but how often do people sit down these days, and I bring this up too much on the podcast as well, but like, I'm sit opposite you now, and it's like, there hasn't been a phone in sight this whole conversation. How often do you really get to do that, just sit and chat, and like, it's like, yeah, we've got cameras here, so there's maybe it's a bit of a fake environment, but in my eyes, like, I'd love to have more conversations like this without the cameras. And running definitely does that for me, where I'm running with someone, and it's like, if you're out running, you're not constantly getting your phone out. Like I do sometimes, like especially if I'm on my own and I've got work on my mind, and I'm like, I gotta catch up with this, and I'm not worried about my training, but like a lot of the time it's like, especially in a group, you're like, oh, my phone's away. At your run club, how many people are running out on their phones?
None. Exactly. It doesn't happen. And you again, some of the best conversations have been out on the trails and out running. It's you get to hear all different stories, and I mean, I couldn't even tell you half of them, because there's so much of that. You get to have so many of these conversations, and they're always enriching. They always happen at the beginning of the race, because by the time you get to the end, you don't see anyone. But that, again, a balance, right? You get a bit of that, and you get a bit of alone time, and it's great in both aspects. But we don't get enough of that time anymore. Again, I go back to sort of the pub days, right, when the local village, everybody's work, you used to get your work from the pub, because you knew Mickey and you knew Keith, and they would sort you out with a bit of work, and whatever you did, especially like with the kind of anything physical, like my job, like landscaping, building, whatever, all your jobs came from the pub, and it was from that social scene. You'd see them down the pub, oh, I've got a job for you next week, or whatever, and it genuinely did happen like that. And of course, with the disappearance of pubs and the disappearance of a social meeting point, everything started I've watched it go from being that when I first started out to being now there's an app that you can download, and a work will come your way from this such and such, and you go, and it's soulless as well, and it's not quite it's a very different world to when I started. I mean, I'm 43, I'm not that old, but I do remember being down the pub every Friday after work. I was working for a lawn company, and generally a lot of the stuff came from people that you knew down the pub. It was just, that's how things happened. It's how social occasions happened. Oh, you coming back down on Saturday for this band that's going to be down there, or that just doesn't happen anymore. Like, invites to pubs and stuff doesn't happen anywhere like the same way it used to, and that's how we all used to socialise. And it's vanished, and a lot of socialising is done through Instagram and other ways, and it has its perks. I enjoy Instagram for certain things, definitely. Hopefully my algorithm would show that it's that would prove that, but it's not. I'm interested in certain things, and I can get that from there, but I never get a sense of the interaction that you get from a live conversation, and it's missing, 100% missing.
There definitely are perks. Like, I do harp on about how bad social media is, but this podcast wouldn't exist without social media. Without this podcast, I probably would never have met you. I wouldn't have met, I've done over 120 episodes now, I want to say. That's 120 people that I've met just because I've invited them round to chat.
This is your pub. But without this, we have to learn how to move forward in a different way to what it was before. And that comes down to embracing change, right? And embracing these different things, is that this is how it's done now. And I'm on board with that kind of way of thinking. Anything that can then increase conversation and increase people's experiences and inspire other people to go as well. I mean, it's worked. It has literally worked in my life. I mean, my mum did her first marathon aged 60. Again, I never remember when things are. Year before last, something like that. Anyway, so she did her first marathon and wants to do more. And that's I know your dad also has taken up running, right?
Yeah.
So this wouldn't happen without the inspiration of others. So if this stuff doesn't happen and we don't do this publicly, it doesn't inspire anyone else because they're not going to see it. I didn't know ultra events existed before watching Reese's video, his YouTube. So without that, how would you know if this stuff happens? So there is definitely huge positives.
How do you then, what is the alternative for pubs now? Because I see it comes up so much in mental health talks. It's like, we don't have that pub, like you're saying, you don't have that social space. And you brought a point that I never even thought of well, that's how we'd get our work as well. It's it'd be like, oh, so-and-so down the pub, and people from different walks of life because you all go to the same thing and they're all in your community, so that it's local. But how do we get that in a world where, in my eyes at least, it's probably the circles I'm in, the little echo chamber of health and fitness, less people seem to be interested in drinking and interested in going to the pub in the first place.
So there's a massive upturn in leisure and the amount of free time that we all have now, which it's not quite the same as it was. That's something that has changed for the positive, and I think will continue to change as we go forward. There's always talk of 4-day weeks for lots of people, and lots of people are doing that as well. So our free time is only really increasing as society grows and moves forward. So the more leisure time there is, the more leisure things there are becoming to do. So like gyms, there's more of them than I think there's ever been. I mean, even where I live, there's a cafe that does board games. And that place is thriving. There's loads of people in there all the time. It go past there of an evening, and people are just in there playing board games. If that's your thing, that's what you can do. A bit like I know the football clubs. Football's still huge, right? And a lot of the kids all still play football at my son's school, and most nights of the week they're somewhere playing football. So there is that interaction. The parents at these ages still have to be there with their kids, so the parents are interacting. I mean, just at my rugby club, we have a quite a healthy little social thing going on. There's people that are we're all friends outside of the pitch as well. So parents and kids, and that's great to see. I mean, we'll go on tour in a couple of weeks' time, and we have a great time. And it's another great social occasion, right? So there are things that happen. It just depends what you're interested in. I think there's still a huge swathe of society. It's easy to tar lots of people with the same brush, but there's some people that maybe aren't that confident to go and find those things or do those things. But I mean, look at the rise of pickleball in the over 60s. What? That's unbelievable. It's what even is that sport? But it's on the rise. It's growing. It's becoming bigger. So yeah, there are things you can do. I think you have to, for a lot of people, maybe they have to get to a point where they have to want to go and do it. I don't know what everyone's driver and motivation is different, but I do feel like we're reaching a point in society where there's plenty to do, and it's just that it can be in different things. I mean, running's still growing. Fitness in general is still growing. So there's lots of things you can still. It's not bleak. I don't think it's bleak. I think it's just maybe people need to find that thing, or whatever it is that they like. They need to explore that more and do that more. And we all do it with our kids. I do it with mine. Is push them into as many different clubs to find out which one sticks and which one they like doing. And they've done everything. They've done loads of things. But maybe some of the adults need to do the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just I do definitely think it's harder as an adult to go and find these clubs. I was looking at doing MMA for a while, but trying to find somewhere that firstly did adult classes, because there would always be this is a teen class, and I'm like, is that the oldest? I'm not a teen, I'm an adult, and I want to learn this thing. But then it's also jobs these days, they're so varied in hours, like you're saying, an uptake in leisure time. I think the uptake in different types of flexible working where like my job definitely isn't like a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So then when I'm looking at clubs, I'm like, oh well, none of them
Doesn't
fit my time.
Yeah.
So like it's definitely harder as adults.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, like it's definitely not bleak. There's millions of things out there to do, and I have seen like massive increases in things like health and fitness and going to gyms and going running and running clubs and all these things that are bringing about this positive change. So it's definitely going in the right direction, but it's just how do we foster that is what I'm always trying to like get at, and being like, I want this to be like even bigger and better. Like I want people to find their thing. And I think the pub is good in the sense, like we've been saying, for that social interaction, and I think it was really good because it brought people together from very different walks of life. Whereas it's like, if you're like into running, then it's like, well, I'm into running and all these people are into running, and it sort of puts you in this little box. Whereas like the pub was like, oh well, I'm into running, oh I'm into football, oh I like rugby, and then you're all there together. And it was a bit of a melting pot, and I think there needs to be something like that brings us together almost. True. There's pros and cons of everything, right? I mean, we can't change where society's headed, but I mean, meeting up with people who are like-minded, I don't think that's ever a terrible thing. I think it's, and if I'm really honest, I think running's still got a very wide range of people in it, right down to the athletes who don't want to talk to you and just want to go out and absolutely cream the course, down to the guys at the back who are just happy to having a great time and chugging beers while they're going along. There's a very eclectic bunch. But I think if you look into most things, you'll probably find it's quite similar. I mean, I'll use the example of rugby because it's what I know, but it brings together a lot of people from different walks of life. And quite often, some real gritty, hard people who've had tough upbringings will find themselves on a rugby pitch, as much as the guy that went to boarding school and his parents are loaded. So there's a wide variety of people in these situations as well, and all getting together over what they consider to be a like-minded thing that they all enjoy. So. Yeah. I think it's been really good that you've sort of, because I do tend to go down like the negative route and be like, how can we make a positive change? But then you've been like, it's not all doom and gloom. Like, there's so many positives out there. I think that's like a refreshing change. Like, I tend to bring people down, being like, how do we fix all the world's problems? And you're like, no, it's great. Like,
they're fixing themselves. If anyone that's seen me on any of like Reese's courses and stuff like that, I've generally got myself known as the guy who comes running into the aid stations with a big smile on his face, like, hey, it's like, but I'm genuinely out there enjoying it. I mean, there's definitely tough periods, but I kind of try to, I think it comes back down to just living in the moment and enjoy what's there in front of you, because there's a lot of stuff you can't change and a lot of stuff you can't do anything about, and you can only manage what you can manage, right?
Yeah, that's it. Going back to the very start then, your call to adventure, if you could go back to just before the call to adventure and give your younger self one piece of advice that you've learnt through this whole journey, what would it be?
I mean, the big one is just live in the moment, enjoy everything that's in front of you. I think this is a really hard, in my head I have a real difficult time of am I competing or am I enjoying this? I've probably painted the picture that I'm out there enjoying these things, and I really genuinely do, and I have to remind myself to do that. But I do enjoy these things for what they are. But the competitive thing, as I've already said, is what drives me, and so I can't just put that to one side. Sometimes it creeps in more, sometimes it creeps in less, and I'll be totally honest, like, my next goal is to win something or do something, because for me I have to, there's a feeling of maybe like mediocrity, never quite making it as a rugby player. I did triathlon for a bit and I enjoyed it, but I didn't really like the swimming, so I went to a swim club for a long period and never really got better because I didn't put the work in, maybe in that respect. Could argue maybe I didn't have the right guidance, maybe I didn't have someone pushing me or whatever it was, but I'm trying to overcome that feeling of mediocrity and not feeling like I've achieved what I could achieve. So with the running thing now, I'm very driven by competition, and I'm very driven to see what I can do before I get too old, if I'm really honest. I probably see myself as one of those guys who'd be running at 100, but even still, it's what can I do now while I'm in my prime or whatever it is. So I don't want to miss that boat. I've missed the rugby one. I won't go back and play rugby. And in fact, when I did play a game after not playing for 10 years, I broke 2 ribs, so that told me not to play rugby anymore. But it's what can I do now while I'm still able to, and while I've got working limbs and there's nothing wrong with me. I need to push myself to go and do what I need to do. So I will probably go back and say to my very younger self, embrace the competition, do the hard work and embrace the competition. That would be my I think
it's very much like on brand with the dichotomy of adventure athletes, like the whole brand, because I always say it, like, for me, adventure is, you look at like Ernest Shackleton going and exploring these like undiscovered places at the time, and it's like there's no structure, it's like what's out there, like and a lot of that for me when it comes to like modern day adventure is like, that's the enjoyment side, is like, what can I explore, like where's all of this, and there's freedom to it. And then you go to the athlete side and you think of an athlete and it's like very structured and regimented, and it's trying to blend the two together, right? And it's hard mentally, and it's a sliding scale, and you can be part one, part the other, and that can change over time. But it's like we're really trying to find that middle ground of like, well, I want to enjoy a 200-mile race, but I also want to perform. Like, where
that encapsulates it perfectly how it works in my head, because it's like going on holiday, and again we had a holiday out to the Alps, and like running in Austria and places like that was just, I was just on my own, but with the family. I'd get up in the morning, I'd have a run, I'd go and run up some peak and then come back down again, and for me it was like the adventure was probably like 80%, and the athlete part was at 20%, and there's a swing all the time in different aspects and whatever it is that's ahead of me or whatever I've got going on. And so that is the perfect summing up, because sometimes it's all adventure, and then other times it's pounding out boring miles on tarmac just to get a time. There's swings and roundabouts. But that's exactly what happens inside probably many people's heads. But mine probably swings more to the athlete bit a bit too much. But I don't really have a problem with it. I'm embracing it, because I think, as I say, what can I do and where can I go and what will happen next, and that's exciting. I like that. And there's loads of places to keep having adventure with this athletic journey, if I'm sort of saying it correct. But
no, I completely agree. Like, I'm definitely with you. I tend to edge towards the athlete side, and I'm like, oh yeah, 100-mile race. Can I podium? Like, is that a thing? Like, how do I podium? And the way I've sort of like justified it in my head now is, and this really helps me when it comes to when things go badly at events, is I'm like, in my training, I see my training as the athlete. That is me being super regimented, being like, right, I need to do the boring miles. I need to be on the pavement. I need to be on a treadmill. I need to be running set paces, doing the speed work, being really strict and being indoors in the gym. And even though I like might not enjoy it, and I'm having hard days, and I'm like, get up and do it anyway, even if you hate it. So then when I get to event day and I'm like, right, it's day to perform, it's like, here's the adventure. Forget everything else now. You've done the athleting. Now's the adventuring. Like, absolutely. You've earned the right to be an adventurer now. And then even if things go wrong on adventure day, it's like, well, adventures go wrong. Like, it's an adventure. If it went right, it wouldn't be an adventure. I'd still be being an athlete. So it's like, that's how I sort of justify it in my head. And if I don't, like, I'll set myself the goal of like, I want to do a sub 24 hour Epona. If I get to Epona now and I'm like, I haven't hit sub 24, rather than beating myself up because that's the athlete in me being like, perform better, it's like, no, that was the adventure, and I've learned a lot from it, and I enjoyed it, and now I can go back to being an athlete. So
I've heard this many times from many people, and I've actually heard of people doing this physically, but it's like putting the sweets in the jar. Every time you do something hard in training, or you do a day's training, you put the sweet in the jar, and to do it physically means that when come race day, you've actually got a big jar of sweets to take on the race with you. I've never done it like that yet, but I do get so you can physically see what your training looks like. You can see how much is compounded on top of the other, and there's a big jar of sweets hopefully at the end of that. So it sounds like a great way to do it, and maybe I should try it. But
and to be fair, if your jar's not that full by the time it's race day, then it's like, well, now you have to suffer because like you don't have enough sweets in the jar. You're not fueling today.
You haven't done the training, you haven't got the sweets. Yeah.
You haven't earned the sweets. You can live off aid stations, no snacks in between. I might have to do that.
It could work. Yeah, it could work. It could be the motivation that people need, but who knows?
Yeah, you can only fuel on the sweets. You man. Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming
pleasure.
on.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah,
it's been a pleasure, and thank you for travelling down for this. You've come quite far.
Do I win the furthest distance travelled?
Not even close. Not even close. I've had a guy who came down from like Manchester way.
Okay, yeah.
I've had people from like Essex, so.
Right, fair play.
Yeah, you're not far off.
Yeah, I'm in there, top 5 maybe.
Yeah, probably top 5. That was a competitiveness.
I'll take it.
Did I win something by coming on? Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks, Will. Wicked, mate. Cheers.
Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Adventure Athletes podcast. If you want to find out more about what we do at Adventure Athletes, head over to adventureathletes.co.uk and you can sign up to all of our events. You can sign up for coaching both in person and online. You can sign up for sports massage. You can sign up for outdoor activity days like the National Three Peaks and get guided by one of our expert guides. So just head over to adventureathletes.co.uk and don't forget to help us spread the word of the podcast. Give it a like, give us a follow, give it a share it with your friends, your family, your mum, your dad, your cat, your nan, everyone you can imagine, because the more views and the further we spread this podcast, the more I can keep this going. There's been a few times in the past 3 years where I've been so close to giving up, and it's all been made possible by you guys and your guest recommendations and giving us listens, giving us support so we can keep going. The more we can spread this, the bigger and better the podcast can get. Until next time, guys.